G'day, my name is Mark and I do not have $30,000 worth of tools. 1 year on, I still do not have $30,000 worth of tools. I've got a cool table saw coming though. I work with recycled timber and I mostly use pallet. I use lots and lots and lots of pallets. I'm over here. One day I decided I wanted to give woodworking a bit of a go. That was about 5 years ago. I decided I'll go find some pallets, I'll pull them apart and I'll see if I actually like this. The reason I use pallets is because they are free and they're literally laying around everywhere. So free, I think, is the most accessible type of timber to get in and have a go. All I had in this shed was a couple of basic power tools, 20 years old. So I kicked it off with a pry bar and a mallet and went to work pulling apart pallets. Pulling apart pallets is time consuming, getting all the nails out. If you're approaching this as a hobby or thinking about a side hustle, if you're happy to put in the time to learn with pallets and not expect to get that time back in profit initially, pallets are the way to go. As a thumbnail suggests, I want to give you my backstory and how I built up this shed. Let's go back 5 years. I decided I'm just going to try and build a basic workbench that'll let me know if I sort of like this before I start spending any money. Obviously, working with pallet wood, there is only so much you can do with the stock that you get. A lot of thin strip palings and some thicker stretches straight if you're lucky. Now, because I wanted to build a chunky workbench, I'm going to need to join all this timber together somehow to make up a nice chunky beam. I de-nailed, hand planed off some of the timber, glued it together with very ordinary PVA glue, clamped it up, and then I planed off that side and then fell in love with pallet wood side grain furniture. My very early builds, I thought I'm gonna make a basic coffee table, learn a few things. When I finished this coffee table, I decided someone might want to buy that. I threw that thing on Facebook Marketplace for $90 and it sold in the first hour. I better build something else. Went through that same routine again, roughly cleaning up the timber, gluing it together, flattening it off with a electric hand plane to come up with those sort of unique pallet wood slabs. I then knocked up a hallway table. This. Again, I threw that one on Marketplace, 120 bucks. I had about 20 people send me a message, is this still available? Yes, it is. And then 19, no, sorry, it's not. So what I then did was I made 2 more hallway tables. I then messaged all those people who were interested. I sold those 2 tables, again, for just $120. I then messaged the rest of the people and said, I'm happy to make these. This is a hobby, it will take me some time. If you'd like one, let me know. And we went from there. So I started making lots of hallway tables. I slowly increased the price. It was starting to feel like I was working a lot for not much money, but at the time, that was fine. I was learning woodworking and I was making cash, which I could then buy the next thing to help me make that table a little bit more efficient. Now, why hallway tables? It's that one piece of furniture that doesn't have to be structurally amazing. It is literally going to sit there at the end of the hallway or somewhere else in the house. It'll have a few ornaments, photo frames, that sort of stuff. People just want something to fill the space. These hallway table, occasional tables, were very, very popular. So from there, I started to treat this thing more like a side hustle. I was very much selling cheap furniture, new to woodworking, still learning, trying to get better on each table. Each time I'd make something, I'd sell something, I would save the cash, I'd spend some of it on whatever, save the cash, buy a new tool, start to make things easier for me in the shed for almost pumping as many of these things out. I definitely don't have $30,000 worth of tools. I've now built up a decent selection of good tools that help me get the job done. I was about 80 pieces of furniture in before I bought the thicknesser. So all of those slabs I would hand flatten with a router and a basic sled that I knocked up out of pallets. And it let me use those slabs, sand them off, clean them up, stick them into the piece of furniture, sell them, go again. Working with pallets, one of the biggest issues when you don't have many tools is getting things square. Hence the slogan. Early on I had a lot of shockers. Most stuff I did was eyeball square, the timber that is. Looking down and thinking that piece is probably going to be okay to make some framework. All the other stuff that went into the slabs, that didn't matter. It was going to be clamped together and cleaned off. So the clamps would sort out all those wonky donkeys. Making all that furniture, going through literally hundreds of pallets, I pretty much knew early on I need to save up first to get a table saw. Table saw was going to be the most versatile piece of kit and allow me to rip and resaw as much of this timber in the shortest amount of time. Again, because all this pallet wood is always wonky as a donkey, you then need to start making yourself some jigs so you've got yourself a straight edge so you can start putting your first straight edge on your pallet slats. There's a million ways you can do that. These are just a couple of my sleds that I've had over the years. This is my latest straightening jig. It does need a Mark II so it can do more things. However, these little ratchet clamps are the fastest, easiest way to get through the process fast. So the plan for all this pallet wood for the next few videos will be to start to do another few big projects. I want to show as much as I can again now, and hopefully with some more skills and knowledge to pass on. Of the 6 pallets I've got here, this is the only pine pallet. Probably the biggest comment I've got over the years, I can only find pine pallets. The simple answer is you just need to keep driving past. Now, I don't have a magical stockpile of pallets. During my peak of picking up hundreds of pallets, I would literally drive past 2 Bunnings nearly every day on the way to work and just have a quick look through the pile and start to hand select anything that had nice colour. Don't discount these pine pallets. Look at the thickness of these. There's some 25mm thick slats and some very big stretchers. I use this stuff heaps, especially to make up basic frames, legs for those hallway tables. This stuff will still clean up nicely, but what you can also do is clean it up and paint it. Save the feature for the top or whatever you want to do. The other great thing about pine is it is not rough on your tools. It's easy to cut, it's easy to clean up. You're not going to go through blades. There's thousands of these things lying around. If you make an error, you just go and get another one. Everyone's favourite part, banging out nails. You want to know the easiest way to get the nails out? Should we give him the gun? So this is what my first slabs look like. This would be the underside. As you can see, all the different widths of timber. And then we'd have the good side. This is the side that I would flatten off with the router. Now initially, all I had was a heap of cheap and nasty little F-clamps. I could only clamp together about 4 or 5 slats of pallet wood. I would clean those off, I would then join them together before I even have a router sled. That was very much the hard way. I would hand plane off that first edge to get my very first pieces of timber. I did a lot of hours with this thing. My advice, there are thousands of pallets lying around. There is not thousands of nice coloured timber pallets lying around. Doing it this way will get you started. However, we can double our stock. Start ripping every beautiful piece of pallet wood into 2, double your stock, save pulling apart an extra couple of hundred pallets. When I got started, I did not do much to the pallet wood at all. If it was a little bit rough, I would just hit it with a belt sander just to clean it up a little bit. I would then just rely on lots of glue and I would clamp the life out of it. Now, I knew the PVA glue wasn't that great and I knew my gluing surfaces and bonds were not that great either. However, I would not rely on this gluing as any sort of structural. This was all about making a big chunk of wood, making it look cool with all the beautiful colours. However, I would build the structure into the project some other way. To check this out. Although I've just mocked this up for the thumbnail, this looks very much like day one gluing pallets together. I had old broken clamps, ratchet straps, pretty much $2 F clamps from the cheapy store, and craft PVA glue hissing out everywhere. That helps you get you started. That helps you sell your first piece of furniture, make some cash, start to upgrade, do things a little bit smarter, a little bit better with some better quality stuff. So in essence, this is what this video is all about. Just get started, get addicted, you'll love it, you'll make some cash, you can build your little workshop, build your little side hustle, and it pays for itself. So good for the brain, so good for the inside. Alrighty, quick channel shout out to Jesper Makes. Now Jesper mentioned me in one of his videos. Video went bananas. Lots of people came over, subscribed to me. Thank you very much. So I just want to return the favour to you. So go find his video where the thumbnail looks a little something like this. Check it out. 1.5 million people can't be wrong. 2.7 million people can't be wrong. Okay, are you still here? Sit back and enjoy my magical mystery pallet tour. Okay, this big bastard is done. So there's 3.6 meters of continuous slab made up of my little brickwork technique. Alrighty, so step one is obviously always to pull some pallets apart. The only reason I'm showing you this is because occasionally people like to tell me that I'm not using pallets. So here they are, pallets. So get yourself a pallet buster, make your life a lot easier to get these things ripped down. Okay, here's a step that I don't normally do. I'm actually running all the slats through the thicknesser to get a nice gluing surface. In the past, I've never done that. I've just glued up the rough, dirty pallet slat face. But I always rely on some other structure to hold all this together, and just something else I've just decided to do because I've got the time, and why not? Okay, glue ups, clamp ups, very exciting stuff. So got a few different camera angles just to make it a little bit more exciting. But I will point out again, as I always do, this is a cheap PVA glue. I get it from Bunnings. It's only about 28 bucks for 4 litres. I use heaps of it, so I don't waste my money on the good Titebond stuff, which I use for anything structural. So the cheap glue has nearly doubled in 3 years. It's still cheaper than, say, Titebond 1, and it's still more than suitable for bulk glue ups, splashing a heap of glue around the place. Alrighty, fun stuff, using machines and tools. This is my thicknesser, love it. So all these slabs, they go back onto my straightening jig, and again, this is why I went with this particular design. I'm actually going to build the other type with the little toggle clamps in the near future just for the slats, but this one is perfect for giving these slabs their first straight edge. I'm going to do a waterfall edge on this particular slab, so there's going to be about 3.6 meters of continuous slab. So I'm going to start with the edge piece, and to get that stagger going of the brickwork, I'll basically chop a few pieces to different sizes so you can see that stagger. Okay, I'm going to cut the miters on this waterfall. So this is the technique I've come up with. I just chuck a bit of board on to get a nice square edge so I can run that first board through. I'll just cut it down the middle at 90 degrees before I go ahead and set my miter saw up to the 45 to cut the miter. Now this all looks pretty cool, all going to plan, cutting the miter, but this is the one job that has given me a load of grief. But basically this is the technique. Cut your first 45, whip the board off, chuck it on the other side, cut your second 45, and you have a nice miter with a nice waterfall. Saying that, I had to have several goes at this. I think my table saw was out of whack, which I've done all that garbage off camera, but that's the process. That's what we're going for. It just wasn't quite 90 degrees. I wasn't quite happy. So I just made a heap of changes, got the table saw tuned in, so I got it looking smicko. Right, with the looking smicko, I could then glue it up. Then I just go ahead and start the brickwork. So I'm going to do the side piece first, so I can get that all glued and clamped and cleaned up, because I don't want to have to try and flip this massive bench on its side to sand it. So I'll whip the end off, get it to the right height, clean it up, and that part is done before we can start working on the top, see what looks good, trying to get a good random mix of all these pallet wood colours. So I put the slab on hold from there, and I decided to finish the frame
before I went ahead and continued the brickwork across the top, because there was a real good chance it was going to go wonky donkey. Didn't want that. All right, this is what not owning a plane looks like. Tap 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 tap. Alrighty, so I probably should have taken a little bit more off, but I got it in there in the end. And this is where it really starts to look like a piece of furniture that I'm happy with. Okay, applying a bit of putty, very exciting stuff. In all seriousness, I do get a lot of questions, do I get a lot of gaps from gluing up pallet wood? The short answer is no, not really, because I clamp the absolute shit out of them. And job is done. So here come the photos and the stills to show you how it's all come together.
G'day, so just finished off the TV cabinet. It's all made out of pallet wood. It's got heaps of beginner methods in both the top with the slab and the cabinet down the bottom. Watch along, have a crack for yourself. Cheers. Cheers. Big head. TV cabinet is going strong. Client still loves it. Hasn't moved a bit. Now this project is all about using up as much of this timber, which has come off the walls, corners from this shed and out the back on the storage rack. There'll be no sliding today. My ass. It's recovered, but short lengths, no need to slide. So I want to try and cut this angle on the coffee table edge. So I've made this simple jig. I rigged that onto the router and then I'll put my flat piece on, screw that down, and then the normal routine. So hopefully that works. So if you never see this footage again, you know it did. This isn't an order, I'm just making a table to sell it, raise some money to help fund my wood lathe when I get to that. Okay, the bottom three corners, they're all glued up and they're square. I'll check, trust me. The joints are actually so tight, they could have actually held themselves square, but I have just hampered the bejesus out of it. Righto, so confession time. Now I made these in hindsight too tight, so once the glue went in they were quite difficult to get them into position, so I end up having to belt the snot out of it with a mallet. Now what I did do is I hit the top of these angles here with the mallet, and in my brain I was thinking that they were going to be in the center here, so it wouldn't matter because I can cover that up, but I'm a dickhead and they're actually here, so it makes these connections here look pretty shabby. So what could possibly go wrong? got a bit carried away. It's also about using as much shit I've got in the shed before I get more stuff. Right, I'm not going to tip it all over the table this time. I'm going to go a little bit easier. Also makes for a better video going a bit smoother. Pouring the white on before, you didn't get this nice effect of it going light to dark. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Yeah. Side note, in case you weren't aware, I was originally known as the Pallet Punter, a bloke in his shed having a punt. I'm pretty much that same bloke. That's all I have to say about that.
Build it. I did get this one off the bench, but I then had to call in the troops to help me get it out of the shed and get it around to the front of the house for collection. And again, thank you for watching. This has been a big one. It's also been very enjoyable, and I've tried some new things and learned some new things. So help me out, subscribe, do what you got to do. Thank you.
Okay, quick little side story. After I finished that project, I found some of the stringers that were a part of the pallet that I used in that project. They were heavily covered in methyl bromide stamps. I had a fair bit of a freak out because I'd only read the negative press about methyl bromide. I stopped losing sleep over it when I realised there was probably only a few little pieces within that whole massive slab top. And I had multiple layers of finish, so unlikely that I was going to kill the old lady from methyl bromide. Several years later, I made the following video. You're welcome.
G'day, my name is Mark, and I did not want to make this video.
I recently received a text message from a bloke named Andy. Hi Mark, I'm the bloke that puts the methyl bromide into your pallets. More about Andy later. Okay, before we freak out, let me backtrack a little bit and let me tell you how I would normally respond to people when chatting about pallets. So for the last 5 years, this is all I would run with. So on the stamp, HT, heat treated, good to go. No stamp, domestic pallet, no treatment, good to go. MB, methyl bromide, bad, very bad. Leave those ones behind. But as you can see, I've already pulled this one apart. So I would also say, check both sides of the pallets because they may have more than one stamp. Now a quick yak about pallet treatments and what generally causes the most concerns and what generates the most hater comments on my videos. The good people in charge of planet Earth decided to come up with some international standards for the treatment of shipping pallets. It's known as the Montreal Protocol, if you want to go and nerd out on that. Why are shipping pallets treated? What everyone is trying to do is to stop nasty bugs traveling from one country, entering another country, and doing a whole heap of damage. It's called biosecurity. Some of the approved treatments are HT, heat treated, KD, kiln dried, I've never seen that, MB, methyl bromide, and SF, sulfuryl fluoride. Similar to methyl bromide, but a very cost prohibitive treatment. Now, all of these treatments are for single-use treatments. Treatment is done, sent off to be packaged, put in the container, they're shipped off, job done. If the pallets are to be used again, they've got to go through that treatment process again. Spoiler alert, I am going to continue using shipping pallets for woodworking, and you may be thinking, cool, I'll just use the heat treated or the domestics or the kiln dried. Just keep watching, please. So here is the thing, and this is where Andy enters the story. Andy is the SME for MB. He is the subject matter expert for methyl bromide. He has done all the courses that fumigators need to do to be accredited to use methyl bromide. Now, Andy and I, we had a very long chat, and another spoiler alert, Andy is an Aussie maker, so we can automatically trust him. As items are shipped, they need to conform with the standards laid down by the relevant authority. Here in Australia, that's the Department of Agriculture. What they will do is open up a shipping container. If all the wood items, including pallets, conform with the big rule book, they close up the container and away it goes. If there is wooden packaging, pallets that don't conform with any of those big rule book standards, that entire container is fumigated with methyl bromide. So regardless what stamps are on those pallets, even the pallets with no stamps at all, they have all been now fumigated with methyl bromide. But don't freak out yet. Okay, a little on methyl bromide. It is an ozone depleting substance, and methyl bromide was banned and had to be phased out by 2005. Why now it's only approved for quarantine purposes. And you need a license to use it. It's bad stuff. And to quote Andy, one sniff and you'll be stiff. Now stick with me, here comes the good oil. The methyl bromide fumigation process, without boring you, it is heated to 70 degrees and fumigated as a vapor. And it can penetrate deep into your pallet, as in right inside the timber. If there is air, MB is there. Oh shit, methyl bromide is in my pallets. Don't freak out yet. Okay, here's the science, and here is the good part. Methyl bromide dissipates back into the atmosphere at room temperature. Let me read this part. No pallets are released to anyone without a TLV of 1 ppm, that's 1 parts per millionth. So the nasty bugs, they're dead. The methyl bromide has dissolved, disappeared, gone, left the building well before this pallet arrives in your woodworking shed. Methyl bromide kills the bugs and pisses off real quick. That's it. And to quote Andy again, you could eat off those methyl bromide pellets if you really wanted to. Another quote from Andy. Methyl bromide is also used to treat commodities such as grapes, asparagus, logs, and other imported goods to prevent introducing pests to the United States. Methyl bromide was broadly used in silos of grain back in the day. So based on that, it has to be able to dissipate. Otherwise, we'd all have two heads. Okay, so next time you're copying a little bit of pallet hate, just make sure you point them towards that video. Hey, my name's Mark. I'm kicking off another project today. I'm going to build 2 benches for a dining table. I've got this old beam, a nice bit of timber. I've got a heap of Merbar and heaps of other random colours which I pulled off pallets.
Duh, don't keep showing them the finished product. You got to keep them frothing for the finished product. Jesus. So again, on this project, I've got lots of timber that may be warped or not perfectly straight. So if it doesn't have a straight edge, I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to come back to it later with this straightening jig. If it is good to go, I'm just going to run it through the table saw to get my initial thickness of the slabs. So these benches are still as they were. Perfect. Wood movement has not been a problem at all, despite the way that I've put glue on every single component, not allowing for movement, but in this case, it didn't matter. Still good. G'day, my name's Mark. I'm from Townsville, North Queensland in Australia, and I like to make things out of pallet wood. And yes, this is all off a pallet. I've got a heap of this nice timber, so what I call nice timber is colour stuff, basically. But it's all wonky as. Okay? I've got heaps of it. It comes straight off the pallet, and it's this poor. So there's a job I should have done a long time ago. That's make myself a straightening jig, like jointing on the table saw. I don't know the joint I'm going to do is use this old... Oh my god, man! Get your audio sorted. I hope I have got my audio sorted a little bit better now. I'm really loving the tones of these timbers, and this wipe on poly, it is the bee's knees. Like, check out the colours pop. It's just so easy to put on. There's no brush strokes, there's no mess. It is awesome. Tip for the bar table, all done. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The contrast of the steel frame with all the timber up top. We're heading outside now. Got to bust down some pallets. Got a heap of that to do. Why am I telling you this? Because occasionally people like to tell me I'm using fake pallets. Anyway, there they are. Already assembled, ready to go, look like pallets. I've now got to pull them apart and make them look like wood again. You notice all the nails are in here still. I'm going to chop them down to about 1,500 each. Some of these are nearly 3 meters long. So I'll chop them down, avoiding the nails, and then I can come back, they'll be more easily to handle, and I can shoot the nails out with any luck. Shoot the nails out. My last video was all about how I pull pallets apart, and I got to show you this thing. It's a pneumatic denailer. Now, Mr. Steve Cortez, he bought this for me because he got sick of watching me struggle bashing out nails all the time. So, can't thank him enough. What a legend. All right, here we go. So we've got some really long bits of timber on my straightening jig. Now, that was a bit of a stretch. Then I realized that way back I made an extension fence, which has made it a little bit better. You can actually get the board right through, and it's well supported off the fence. Then I also remembered that I have a push stick, making it even safer again. All right, first run with the new spiral cutter head. Let's see how less noisy it is. Now you're gonna have to take my word for this, because no one wants to listen to my thickness of screaming away, but it was a dramatic difference. I'm just gonna shut the door, take the edge off. The old one was like a jet engine taking off. This, I've got single hearing protection. It quietens up as you load it up. It's fantastic, I love it. The game I like to play is called Have I Got Enough? Technically, I've got enough. This is the framework of those massive pallets, and it's the same beautiful timber. Nice chunky pieces. That's going to let me mix up the thickness variation in these slab tops. So I'm just going to smack these apart because I don't want to waste them, they're awesome. I have a heap of these boards that are completely bowed. Now, they'll clamp up just fine, but what I'm going to do to mix up the thickness variation is I'm going to just whack on a feather board. I'm going to rip all of these ones down to a nice thin strip. Alrighty, so a few tips. Always make sure your sauce bottle is full before you start. Silicone spatula, invaluable. And the other main tip, make sure you've got a bit of sawdust on the floor if you're going to slide. I'm not actually very coordinated. The secret is, it's actually the sawdust. And I couldn't do it without it, so bring it in. Oh, can't do the left leg slide. Can't do it. You know how much footage I have of me pulling the top off this? These are pretty long slabs, and I'm going to be pretty buggy if I keep sliding. And I probably look like a bit of a dickhead. Truth be told, I'm going to cut the slide away because I've actually got a fitness test tomorrow for my real job. And it's been a slow year for the old fitness on the coronavirus.
you probably often hear the question, how much pressure is enough on the clamps? Generally, just firm so the glue just starts to squeeze out. With these ones, where there's all sorts of wonky donkey action going on, you want to be tightening up until you just hear something go bang around here. Generally that's good enough. I'll just tighten the clamp up and then move it back. Hello, dickhead.
Jesus.
Alright, and now this is one of my slabs. It's all done. Everyone that's jumping on and subscribing, really appreciate it. That is helping me massively. You might not have any idea, but it's really helping my channel. It helps support everything that you see I'm doing in the shed here. Much appreciated. Alright, so I've got this one rule: if I can't move it around the shop, I don't make it. Doesn't mean once it's finished I won't get some help getting it out of the shop, because no one wants to see their poo-poo bell bend up on the floor, obviously. Right, that was complete freehand. Then I'll just take the rest off with the belt sander. What is going on with that? Cinematographic masterpiece reveal. It seemed like a good idea at the time. This table, still good to go, no problems. that lady owns the TV cabinet as well, the chunky one. And then I also built a heap of pallet wood furniture for her daughter as well. And that's all going strong too. Pallets. Alrighty, well I guess this is like an off-cut project. So I get heaps of these strips. I normally get 2 strips of timber out of each pallet slab. And all of these ones are just under the size which I normally make my slabs out of. So I'm going to make some thinner slabs, use all this timber to remake this chair.
This is it. This is me making a slab. Pretty awesome stuff. Alright, so sit back, grab a brew. This is a little bit longer video than I normally make.
Right, so here's my first blank. So I'm now going to cut veneers so I see all this cool colour. Whether I've bitten off more than I can chew, I don't really know. But that's the beauty of trying new things. Alright, I've said it about 1,000 times on my Instagram feed, but this is the best plastic bag you'll ever buy.
Okay, so seat back. I'm going to trim the sides off first before I do the curves on the bandsaw. I've probably got to come up with a better way to get those two backrest attachment thingy bobs exactly the same thickness, so it was a bit of guesswork. I got there in the end, but they're not perfect. Did the job, but there's got to be a better way. Maybe some Cuffy's woodwork mathematics is required. Now, I don't have any Forstner bits, but I do have these spade bits from Irwin, and what I do like about them is the little tips on the end which actually score your wood before you start gouging into it, so you actually get a nice neat cut. So I'm happy to run with them for now. They're all good. Same deal lining up the seat back. So that's all done and we're getting close. Righto, getting close to putting on some finish. So we are very close. It was just enough that I have to give a few love taps to seat those into position. Anyway, it's all good. They didn't do any damage. Happy with that. Okay, so it's pretty much bolts and an Allen key and put this thing together. Like I said, a la IKEA. Oh, check that seat back. That is probably the most favourite piece of wood that I have ever made. All right, quick road test, make sure it doesn't spontaneously combust. Alrighty, quick check of the lift mechanism, quick pick of the nose, and then quietly admire my handiwork.
G'day, my name's Mark, kicking off another project. This one's all about the pallet again. It's the third stool to go with the other 2 stools, the conical shaped garlic looking things that you can see up here. This one, just want to get back to basics, do the pallet wood, bust down the pallets, clean them up, make them usable, and then make something good. Where this thing is worth its weight in gold, that you just bend over the nail and butts him out. It's a beautiful thing. I'm learning what looks cool, what works, is pick a piece of furniture that I have or have seen and just use some of those angles because I like this profile. So I'm going to lay that down, make a template which I can then make a similar shape out of my pallet wood. I'm going to have 2 layers of pallet wood. I'm going to work my way around, make up 2 layers. So basically it's all interlocked with half lap. I've just elevated this off the deck so I can get clamps on. It's going to be a little bit fiddly, but I just got to trust now all the angles line up. I know they're all good, and just basically work my way around, get as much glue as possible in as much places as possible, and then clamp the shit out. Check it out. I'm actually using my awesome woodwork bench that I made instead of over there on that shit thing. Alright, I've just cut that angle on the table saw very carefully, slowly. I've just got to take away this edge just to try and neat up this footstool with the angles that I've got going. I've also got to clear out that so it fits snug against there. So these are sort of the little extra things I want to do just to improve the skills basically, and figure things out as I go. Okay, just about done. To soften it up some more, what I'm going to do is put some chamfers on this inside edge just to change the chunkiness or change the profile a little bit. Chamfers will just make you feel good on the inside. So that's what I do. I have my 2 pieces. This video is obviously all about making this. Now these curved seat tops are sculptures with the backrest and these tiny little side arms. You can check out how I made those in the cone shaped stool video. So bolts, threaded inserts, it's really just another cool way of joining timber together. The reason I got into doing this way is I basically pulled apart a chair, took the pieces, used those templates to make myself a wooden chair. I'm just trying to check square with the front of the front seat here. Stool number 3. Okay, I've got the old hand tripod going on here. Let me show you the finished piece. It's different, I'll give you that. But it's nice and strong, and it was heaps of fun to make. That's it, thanks very much for watching. This is my last project for the year. I'll just have a bit of a wind down now for Christmas. I'll just make a few rando things in the shed. I hope you enjoy this one. I hope you watch the other one as well. It is the end of another pretty challenging year for a lot of people. So what you can do is just get out and support people, get behind them and help them get moving and kick off 2022.
Alright, now, using a metal detector I know is very exciting, but this is showing you that even though the nails are out, there is tiny shards of nail left in that are going to wreck your planer, your saw blades, and all that good stuff. And look at that timber. Ah, she's beautiful. Put a horn on a jellyfish. Alright, what's up next? The very important job of mixing all the timber up and making it as random as possible.
Okay, so it'll be pretty flat. Just give it some love taps to get it nice and flat, and then you want to go ahead and clamp the absolute shit out of it, or until you hear a little pop noise coming from somewhere in your body. I'm now going to flatten all my slabs. I'm going to use a thicknesser. But what I did before I bought this was I just had a sled and a router and basically rigged up a big board with some side rails, and you basically, I got a video, I'll just show you. It works like that. I've flattened off at least 80 of my projects before I decided to invest in one of these. Alrighty, so that's pretty much it. That's how I now do it. There's lots of those other little tips in on how I used to do it, or how you can get yourself some of these slabs with very minimal tools. Like I said, it's been a long time coming to get it to this stage, but a bit of hard yakka and you can clean up this beautiful pallet wood just fine. Alrighty, so when you get people say, yeah, but it's only pallet wood and you get it for free, you can show them this video or one of your own to show them how much work goes into making some beautiful slabs of timber like this. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's definitely worth it. Oh, I might just throw in some bonus footage. I'm now going to chop these up into bricks. So the brickwork method is what I use in a lot of my slabs. It's super strong and looks really cool. All right, thank you. I think this is one of my first YouTube videos. It was made from Instagram screen grabs because I never used to keep any of the footage. I was doing the old iPhone shuffle, like run out of storage, delete the project, and then I decided to start a channel. So I needed to get creative to get some content up there. Didn't anybody know though? Probably. It was pretty shit. G'day, alright, as promised this video is just about the slabs. All the timber in this slab as well as the bench is reclaimed. The slab is a combination of old decking. I've got some Merbo pallets. I've also got some Merbu pallets and also got stock standard pallets that I find at the back of Bunnings. Do you remember when you first got your training wheels off as a kid? There's nothing like that. You're probably hitting yourself back there. But this thing is the game. Anyway, heaps of cool colours in there. Don't know what they are, but they're cool. Also, standard pallets, normal size. You don't need to slide. So, have no idea what I'm talking about. I made some big slabs. So, in order to do those, need to master the slide. So if you really need to go back and check that one, I'll put a link up. Okay, beating the snot out of the slab is pretty essential when you're using these type of clamps. Although they are cheap and I use them for everything and they get you in the game of clamping things together, they do lack some of those abilities of a parallel clamp. So just make sure that as you're clamping up, especially the bottom run, that your glue up isn't lifting in the middle. So just a little bit of pressure to start with, tap it down, get the top on, and then even pressure, checking as you go, just to make sure nothing rides up, moves, and then cost you some thickness or more runs through your planer. Alrighty, I've just set myself up for a dummy run with the clamps. Make sure that the clamps are actually pulling on the timber, not the sled. There's a little bit of gap in there, that's what we need. I'll get my decorative front edge glued up first because it's a little bit fiddly. So I just need to jam it in a little bit to improve the joint. Get rid of a couple of those gaps on the old shonker dovetails I got going on there. That is curving up in the middle, which isn't too bad because I've got this big gap here. Now if I can pull the top ones tighter, I can slowly get a nice perfect flat slabarooski. How do you like that word? Slabarooski. I've probably lost about 10 kilos in sweat this morning, but I tell you, it's been worth it. End up with these big ass slabs. G'day, my name is Mark and my table saw just shit itself. Oh, didn't think I'd be using this again. With the table saw out of action, I thought I'd make a quick video on how I actually started out making haul tables. Now, I wanted to make this video anyway. The table saw shitting itself has bumped it up the list. I had the basic power tools, circular saw, router, a couple of drills, belt sander, sliding miter saw. The goal here is to see how long this table actually takes me and how much pallet punter cassiola I can make. But just remember, this is a hobby slash side hustle, and I am pretty poor at valuing my own time when it comes to selling my actual products. Through the video, I'll throw up a few rando times of how long it took me to do certain tasks throughout the build, so you can start to figure out how long this might take you for real. And then I'll give you my best guesstimation. That means I'm going to pluck it out of my freckle. As you make more and more items, you're going to get more time efficient as you go. You get better at things, you learn, you have jigs and processes sorted and streamlined. Just remember, it does not happen overnight. Investing back into yourself is going to be the key to productivity. Like getting one of these pneumatic denailers. It shoots the nails out. I do like to use as much of the pallet as possible because, you know, it's hard yakka. Except these blocks. I never use those. Who wants to watch a video about that? So out we go outside. This is basically the back to basics. We don't have a table saw, so we need to put a straight edge on. This straightening jig is going to get you in the game on day one. Very easy to make. I made mine out of pallets. I've got 20 pallet slats here that I've put one straight edge on outside with the day one straightening jig. I've got one nice flat side for the glue up and this pretty dodgy side, which I'm not too concerned about. It just means a couple of extra passes with the router. Doing that inside in the shade, probably more fun than doing it outside in the heat. Prepare the pallet slabs as best you can with the tools that you have. Try for a nice clean bond, but don't stress too much. Modern glue is a magical thing. Alrighty, let's crack on with the glue up. I'm getting on with the randomization, just making sure I've got a nice variation of the two types of pallets as I stack them up on my clamps. I want to make sure they're flipped over. That one straight edge I got, that is going to make sure my glue up goes as best as possible. Get that on the underside against the clamp, so when we clamp up, we at least know one side is going to be nice and flat. So I need to whip up a router sled in lieu of a thicknesser. It's just a board, a couple of pieces of timber, and I like to use this angle steel, a couple of screws, voila, router sled. And this is me showing you how to cut a piece of timber without a miter saw, which you probably just want to go and buy a miter saw because they are super versatile. All right, back outside, it's hot. More sanding, more straightening, more gluing as we produce some timber that we need to make up this basic frame for this very basic hallway table. I've always wanted to edit in a cheesy clamp removal. I'd rather watch other punters like this dude, the Grant Alexander, do it. Okay, for today's hello dickhead moment, make sure that your sled is taller than your slab. I think this is shit the gear too, so I'm going to start this with a palm router. If I can get the slab made, hopefully make some cash, then I'm going to have to buy one of these, then I'll have to make another table to make up that lost money, to put into the pool of money that I need for the table. This shit happens, but you just got to make more tables, basically. Using a router to flatten a slab, it is dusty, messy, shit goes everywhere, and it's a fair whack of physical effort. However, it is a great way to produce a flat, slabby timber thing, make more tables, make more cash, so you can then one day move on and potentially buy a better machine like a thickness. We've got the top side, or the good side, still got a heap of voids, that's okay. And then the bottom side is the shit side. However, I've just taken enough off to have a level surface, but as long as the front edges and most of it is pretty flat, it's going to let me attach a frame nice and square, and I didn't have to spend a lot of time flattening the bottom. And I give it a smash with the belt sander now. I had to buy a new one. That hurt, but I'll not let you fly off the bench. I promise that I will not sand your power cord this time. What I'm going for is very simple half flat joints. I'm using the miter saw, as you can see here, knock those out, clean them up with the chisel. What that'll let me do is create a nice gluing surface, check square. I'll then just going to use glue and screws. I can hide some of those screws in behind other joints. I'm not too concerned with screw holes at all because I know that I'm going to fill them with a bit of putty. Check square, carry on. Paint over them, happy days. Simple joinery, glue, screws, and some paint to hide the less aesthetically pleasing features. So here it is, a basic hallway table with a nice pallet wood slat top sitting on a whitewashed pine frame. This is my most sellable combination. I'm going to throw this thing on Facebook Marketplace and my pages. I'm going to try and sell it for 300 bucks. It is a very simple table. Now this whole project took me what I like to call 3 shed days of a couple of hours each. So no more than 6 hours total, which included making all the jigs. Wrong side. It included filming, digging around as usual. So I would guesstimate that the project probably took me only about 4 hours. If you happen to make 2 of these at the same time, everything is going to be streamlined and the average of that build time is going to come right down, and therefore you're going to be getting more for yourself per hour. But that part is up to you to decide how much you want to make. Oh, slow motion, black and white, walk off. What the fuck was that? Anyway, it was also a rare sighting of my calf muscles, or lack thereof. Oh, this was my most hated dust setup. Used to explode all the time, implode sometimes. Far too much pressure from that thicknesser going through all that cyclone small bucket. It's a disaster. Get yourself an extractor when you can, is my biggest tip. Finishing off with a forward roll. Why not? Alrighty, g'day everybody. It's been a while since I've done a pallet project, so let me show you some pallets. I've been very lucky to get a heap of these pallets from my mate David Kelly. He just keeps dropping them off. He's an absolute champion. From those pallets outside, you would have seen the vertical pieces, which are the stretchers. I end up with a lot of those. They're pretty gnarly. They've got lots of nails in them. Same with some of these other stretchers from really heavy rando pallets. I want to use all this beautiful timber just to show you how it can clean up and what you can do with it. For me, I'm going to make something for the shop. But if I'm going to make something for the shop with pallets, I'm going to make it cool. Also like to welcome all the people that have come across from Jesper Makes' channel. He had a beautiful coffee table video cooked off. Happened to mention my name in that video. So here you are. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoy what you're seeing. Hope you stick around. If you haven't heard of Jesper, why don't we return the favour via me through him? Go and sub up his channel. His videography is amazing. That's all I'm going to say. Just go and have a look. Very hard Aussie hard wood. I want to go for a pretty robust press. What I want to show you is how you can make some really chunky, solid pallet wood
or any wood furniture using this very simple glue up technique. Basically what we're going to create just with lamination is these joints. So a bridle joint or a double bridle joint. We then glue up the opposite for the opposing side. Once we glue them together, we get this very decorative and super strong corner joint. All that downward clamping pressure is going through these boards. Multiply that by 5 boards. With these super strong corners, I think the press should be more than enough. So, this is what you should be left up with. 2 of these, and for the top, you want 2 of these. And there we go, there's the joint, nice and strong. A little bit decorative as well. So these are all cut off the table saw to the same width. So in theory, it should all go together. It will need some persuasion, but we'll get there. Wood press, here we go. It's pretty chunky, it's pretty solid, it's pretty cool. Okay, it is time to just get started. But just keep watching this video and then at the end you can go ahead and just get started. G'day. G'day, my name is Mark and I'm sorry, but this channel is not about using just a hammer and a saw. I would like to follow on from my video of how I started and made money woodworking. The theme of this one is pretty simple. Just get started. And I want to share my thoughts on tools, and it's also a bit of a look around the shed, so please stick around. You are going to need tools. You can try and do it with just a hammer and a saw. Now that would be impressive, and I'll be the first to sub up to your channel if you do. So let me know. I want to throw this out early. Buy once, cry once. You're going to hear that a lot as you watch YouTubers, research forums on tools, all that sort of good stuff. But in my opinion, if you do just buy once, cry once, you are never going to just get started. More on that as we go. Let me give you the quick backstory of what tools I started with about 5 years ago. When I decided that I would like to give woodwork a bit of a go, it looked like fun, my brother was having a ball, and I wanted in. What I had was a few corded Ryobi and GMC power tools, such as a circular saw, belt sander, a router, and a planer. I also had a very small, dodgy, big box store branded miter saw. These were the tools I had to make up a few canvas art frames for my wife about 20 years ago, when my idea of joinery was fixing 2 boards together with shade cloth fasteners. Fair dinkum. It worked a treat, I must admit. So I had the tools to chop up, clean off, and glue a few pallet boards together to try and make some usable timber. And if you recall, when I planed off those first side grain glue ups, I fell in love with Palletwood side grain slabs. Now there is one tool in the shed where I did apply the buy once, cry once theory. Stick around to the end if you want to hear about that. But spoiler alert, it is the one standalone tool that you can get, start woodworking, make some money pretty much on day one. Tools cost money. However, jump onto Facebook, you are more than likely going to find a bundle of tools like this for not much money to just get started. Now I knew I was enjoying this backyard banded wood thing as I was riding my mountain bike less and I was busting pallets apart more. I think I have a new hobby. I had made a little bench, and while standing back admiring my creation, I had the thought that someone might actually pay some money for this. Not much money, but money I could put towards a new tool, for example. Okay, that bench was a little bit shit. So I made a slightly better one and I sold that one for 90 kangaroo skins. I set myself a few rules. I want this hobby to pay for itself. Okay, that is only one rule, but it is still a rule around here and it is still the #1 rule. It was then that I thought I would splash out and buy the cheapest sliding compound miter saw that 180 bucks could buy. Buy once, cry once was definitely not a consideration because I was, still am, a massive tight ass. The other reason is I did not want to lay down the big dollars just in case I did not really like woodwork. As in, what if the honeymoon period ended? And who can afford $1,000 on a saw? Back then, not me. Anyway, I was fully addicted very early and I was pulling apart lots and lots of pallets. I managed to blow up or completely murderize those original corded power tools, which I replaced with cassiola I was making from my hallway table side hustle, I stumbled across the Makita MT range of corded tools. It's the same Makita quality tools. However, what they did was move their factories to China to reduce manufacturing costs and compete with the DIY market. They are great tools that you can beat the snot out of. At about the same time, I thought I would step into the future and get a couple of battery-powered tools to make life a little easier. I instinctively engaged tight-ass mode and headed straight to the El Cheapo store brand, where I could get 3, 4 or even 5 tools for the price of one top-quality tool. And they had a 5-year warranty, which means you can beat the snot out of them and then swap them out for a newbie when they die. Happy days! I flogged those things for a couple of years, and although I was pushing the friendship on their DIY use only status, they definitely did the job for me. So I had what I needed to pump out hallway tables, make some cash, learn a few skills, and at the same time I would be drooling over table saws and thickness planners that I would see in all the YouTube videos. I need a table saw. For 50 bucks I managed to pick up what I think was the first table saw ever made by man. Fair dinkum. In fact, it also flipped over to become a miter saw. This particular table saw had 0 safety features, but I made it work for the very short time I had it. What it did do was confirm for me that a table saw would be my first major purchase. Make more tables, make more cash, buy a table saw. And I'd be laughing like a big grey hairy spider. The table saw has been the most used, most versatile and productive tool in the shed. Buy once, cry once. Not really. I bought twice, and I sold the old thing for 70 bucks, so I made a profit. Captain Obvious. You can sell your old tools. Someone will buy them. My next major purchase was going to be a thicknesser. Yes, a thicknesser. Yanks. Okay, a thickness planer. A planer thicknesser. Alright, moving on. Same routine. Make furniture, make cash, buy the next machine. I had a DeWalt saw already and it was living up to its slogan, so I went for this thicknesser. Why? Because almost all the YouTubers and content creators I watched had this machine. It must be the go. And it was clearly more robust than all the other benchtop options, and I knew that I was going to give that thing a hiding. I really did earn this thing. I was about 80 pieces of furniture in before I bought the thicknesser. Those 80 pieces of pallet wood slab top furniture were all flattened with a router and sled by hand. It was hard yakka, slow going, and it made a huge mess every single time. But the router will let you just get started. Okay, quick chat about this beautiful old jointer. This was never on my radar as a purchase because I had another rule in the shed: justify every purchase. Will the tool be used all the time, or is it versatile? I did not need a jointer. The table saw and the thicknesser could get the job done squaring up timber, so no jointer needed. However, let me quickly share this little story. It was about the time I was getting a lot of trolling comments that I was not using pallets. I was using fake pallets. I still don't understand why anyone would want to go through that charade. I received a comment along these lines one day. I refrained from replying like an asshole and instead kept it civil, and I actually struck up a conversation. Long story short, a week later that same bloke sent me a message asking if I would like this 100-year-old jointer. Yes Pete, I would. I don't really know how to wrap that up into a nice moral of the story quote, so let me refer you to another rule around here: be excellent to each other. Pretty simple. Okay, moving on. I was getting a little bit better at valuing my time and starting to charge a little bit more for my custom pallet furniture, which meant I could start to look at a few tools that might make my life a little easier. The limits of the El Cheapo battery tools were starting to reveal themselves to me. I think it was when I was pre-drilling holes in pine for an impact driver to then drive in a screw that I thought maybe it's time to invest in some better kit and try and be a little bit more efficient. I did the math on the 3 major brands here in Australia and came to the conclusion that they're all pretty competitive price-wise. And although I already had some yellow kit, I was not biased to that particular brand. I did end up settling on DeWalt purely because of the redemption deals that they had going at the time. I needed a new mower. I liked battery power. DeWalt had this U-Butte deal, and the redemption was an additional 2 6-hour batteries and a fast charger. Happy days. I'm in like Flynn. So I was now in the yellow tool ecosystem, and I could start adding or replacing tools, as the cheap and nasties were finally retired. I've since upgraded my miter saw, and of course I sold the old one and I made a little money. It was just time to treat myself to a little more accuracy with the big Bosch. The other massive advantage of this particular miter saw is the space saving. Having that thing sit up against the wall, saving me heaps of space behind the saw. Perfect in a small space. I binned the cheap and nasty battery tools. Even though they still had a little bit of life in them, they had earned their retirement. They certainly did not owe me anything. For what I paid for them, they well and truly let me earn some dollars for the use. Buy once, cry once was not a player. There is so many other tools that you'll want to accumulate along the way. Just ask yourself, do I really need it? Is there another tool I can have that can do this task? Even if you have plenty of cash to burn, do you really want all that shit in your shed? I don't. You're naturally going to gravitate to the types of projects that you want to make, so therefore your tools are going to be directed to those that you need for those projects. If you're going to get into the pallet wood game, let me share with you just 2 tools that will make your life easier. They will save you time and save you a heap of money. Pneumatic denailer. It shoots the nails out. It does come with the cost of a compressor. I used to borrow one on busting down days for about a year. Anyway, your shoulders are going to thank you, and so is the time clock. A metal detector. Get one. Get one early. Don't be like me. This thing is going to save you a lot of money because you're not going to hit nails and hidden screws with your nice blades on all your machines, costing you time repairing them or costing you money buying new ones. Dickhead. I have links for both of these tools along with all sorts of other things that I use down below. And on that, here is a massive thank you to all the people who come back to my channel, find those links, click the links to buy their gear. Amazon commissions eventually do add up, and that has let me purchase a few luxury items like these and these and these that my tight freckle has never been able to justify, or there was something else that was just a little more important at the time. Nice to haves can come later. Don't get overwhelmed by all the good shit that you see in everyone else's videos. Alrighty, let me plant a little seed for those thinking about getting into woodworking to earn a little cashiola, potentially on day one. A wood lathe. A lathe is the one standalone tool that you can get to dip your toe in the water after you try it out maybe. Other than a few accessories, finish and sandpaper, you don't need anything else. Just go have a few lessons. You can buy your timber blanks retail, cut and ready to go to just get started. And if you love instant gratification, I highly recommend giving wood turning a go. This is my lathe. It is probably the first time I have legitimately used the expression buy once, cry once for a tool. And though I had a very, very, very cheap and nasty lathe to have a bit of a play around with for a while, that one let me give wood turning a bit of a try. It also showed me I could make some money from simple items like these mallets. This machine retails for about 7,000 kangaroo. Tight ass mode, engaged. I found a second-hand machine. I drove 800 kilometers and I spent about $2,500. I cleaned it up and I put it to work. I have not even ramped this thing up yet, but it has already paid for itself in under 12 months. Buy once, cry once actually came out of my mouth. So keep an eye out for the older, generally cast iron machines. They were made to last and can also be heaps of fun to bring back to life. Alrighty, final word on buy once, cry once. That phrase is mostly used by people who have the money, or they're smart business people who are making a capital investment, but I'm willing to bet this pallet lamination that the buy once, cry once people have indeed bought twice before, many times. They just got smarter as they went. Your workspace is the most important thing. Size does not matter. Just think about the size and the shape carefully. Don't be afraid to completely upend the joint to make better use of what you have. Don't stockpile clutter. And most importantly, keep improving the space as you go. Keep organising, make it look a little bit nicer. Don't blow all your coin on aesthetics. Make it safer, make it more comfortable, and ultimately a more enjoyable place to work. Okay, do what you have to do to just get started. You are gonna love it. Catch you later. Okay, this is the era where pretty much most of my videos started with this song, so you will hear it a few more times, so bear with me. It is cool, but Don't tap away yet. G'day, my name is Mark, and I've just collected 20 pallets at the start of cyclone season. My goal is to collect 20 pallets and try and find as many cool colours as possible. I don't know what the species are on these pallets. All that I know are the ones that are not pine, so it's not pine is what I'm looking for. There is a couple thrown in. I've spoken to a timber guru of 40 years experience, and he's going to clear it all up for us. 19 pallets. Just 19. And I'll promise 20 pallets, but this one is so awesome, it deserves its own video. But here is my big secret to finding the good stuff. I just keep driving past all the time until I find what I want, and I don't take what I don't want. Just leave it there. Sometimes you can simply drive the streets in an industrial area, spot some pallets near the bins, or just go in and ask, are these going to the dump? If the answer is yes, just take it, recycle it, turn that pallet into something else other than landfill. Hello! I think I've just hit the jackpot. Check this out. I was dumping some green waste at the tip, massive pile of salvageable timber. I didn't take it, but there's wood everywhere out there. Throughout the video, I want to throw in a heap of old footage and old projects of what I could actually do with these pallet slabs. One, to get the juices flowing, and two, to get your ideas of what I should do with these slabs in the near future. So please let me know down below. It has taken me a bit over 2 hours to bust all these pallets down and get them inside the shed. Cyclone, crisis averted. To help me keep track of all the timings for each step of this process, I'm going to test out and use Tradify. It is an all-in-one job management system for tradies or punters like me. And this timekeeping feature alone is just the best. Two hours, 15 minutes to shoot and pull all the nails out. The keen eye would have spotted the blue pallets. In 5 years, I think I've only picked up about 4 of these. Why? That's because they're not for the taking. These ones were in the bin, and if I don't take them, they are going in the ground. You've got to ask yourself though, are they worth the effort? They are often split, rotted, full of nails, and mostly falling apart. Short answer is yes, they are amazing timber. Gonna say, first one, gotta beat. It's gonna be a long day. 50 minutes on the metal detector for 188 slats of pellet. It was only 1 hour and 10 minutes to put the first straight edge on all of this timber. And that lightning fast speed is all because of this new straightening jig that I've just made and these quick release clamps. They're the best solution I've found for working with all the different thicknesses of timber. And this is the one job that really does feel like it takes forever. There is a reason that I've been keeping all of the individual pallets stacked in their individual piles as I work through each stage of the process, and that is because now they all have to go through the thicknesser, and to save time winding the thicknesser up and down, which is very annoying, that is probably the most efficient way to do it. So everything's got to go through the thicknesser, both sides, to get a nice clean face ready for gluing.
As promised, here is the guru with all the good oil on timber. Aussie timber for now.
Tasmanian oak isn't an oak, it's 3 different trees. Australia has 7 of the 10 hardest timber on the planet, according to the Jinky Scale. Gum trees are hardwoods. All eucalypts are gum trees, but not all gum trees are eucalypts. Tasmanian Huon pine isn't actually a frickin' pine. So everything else in Australia just gets called an oak. Australia doesn't actually have any true oaks, but we get silky oak, she oak, bull oak. It's all a big load of oak. Oakley dokley.
Clear as mud. I've ripped all the pallets into 2 different sizes. This is to reduce waste and to get the slabs as thick as possible. I've gone with a 50mm batch and an 85mm batch. This can be whatever you need or whatever the timber allows. Here is all the broad pallets, and here is all the thinner pallets. This is the safer later pile, like the pile used for this box, using up all the scraps. And this is the waste. Very thin strips. I don't want these. They are going to go to the green waste dump and return to nature. This massive pile is all the stretches off the 19 pallets. Not going to use them in this video. However, it adds to the is it worth the effort pile of timber. Starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so it's time to glue. This only took about an hour and 15 minutes. But just remember, I have had a lot of practice with the glue bottle. Okay, I've got most of that 50mm slat timber up on the bench here. I'm just going through and randomizing all the different colors and thicknesses and just looking for any dog's balls on a canary situations. And what I mean by that is any thick pine with very large knots. And the other one, although it's beautiful timber, there is a couple of pieces of really dark, thick red timber. Rip them down the guts, make them thin, and don't make it so obvious. For the final session, I like to put a straight edge on all the slabs, whether they're going to go through the table saw or just ready for further cut. You can do this however you want. Use a hand plane, circular saw, run them over the jointer if you've got one. Do whatever you've got to do to clean up the timber. What I like to do for speed and ease is throw a length of angled steel onto the slab and run them all through the saw. Gives me a quick artificial straight edge and it is super fast. I'll send one side across the jointer to get it nice and flat. Then I'll send everything through the thicknesser, get everything nice and parallel and flat, and the same thickness. If you don't have the big machines, I've got the video on Back to Basics right up here. So busting down 19 pallets and turning them into glorious slabs of timber has taken me about 12 hours. Now if I'm going to pay myself about 70 bucks an hour plus tax, this pile of wood owes me about $924 in labour. Now I know the possibilities of all of this timber and I'm very confident that I can make that labour money back. Just at a glance, there is 9 slabs suitable for hallway tables and it does not take much effort to knock up some frame for those. And going back to the Back to Basics video, I'm pretty confident I can get at least 300 bucks for some basic hallway tables. So the big question of the video, is this worth it? My fur coat it is. I've picked up these pallets for free. I've spent enjoyable woodworking time preparing all the timber. Now I get to do more woodwork and turn these slabs into creative things. Now this is a hobby / side hustle. I love to make things, I also love to sell things, so worth it for sure. Cassiola on the side, happy days. I have 15 slabs of pallets. varying sizes, but basically this one took me 40 minutes to make. Is it worth it? Yeah, nah, yeah. That means yes, it's worth it. Okay, catch you later. If you wouldn't mind sharing this video around, that would be absolutely unreal. Okay, how we going? We still with me? Good. Okay, this next one is a personal favourite of mine, so please enjoy. G'day, my name is Mark and I have this massive Merbau pallet and I want to turn it into something cool, make some cash and somehow try to beat Morley Kurt and Jesper Makes at this pallet game. Morley took a pallet and added some steel legs and he flogged that off on Instagram. Jesper took his pallet, added a heap of epoxy, then he gave his creation away to his mother-in-law, and then someone bought it on the internet. Orkies. Now, I have this massive Merbau pallet, except I already know what I'm going to get paid. So I don't know what the competition is or how to beat these blokes. I think I just wanted to sneak in a cheeky rando shout out. Alrighty, back to how my story actually begins. And it did not start with this massive pallet. It began with these skateboards. Say yes to the right things and no to the wrong things. This, my friends, I hope was a right thing. Long story short, I was contacted by a potential customer if I could build a dining table out of recycled skateboards. I said, sorry, I simply don't have enough skateboards for that size project and I did not want to commit my precious supply. The customer came back to me and said, if I can get the skateboards, would you be interested? Me? Yeah, sure. If you can source them, I will make the table. I was quietly confident I wouldn't be making the table. Hi Mark, I've got the skateboards. Where would you like me to send them? Here we go. You know what looks pretty rad with broken skateboards? Dark timber. Dark pallet wood timber. This is my last Palletosaurus Rex that my mate Big Dave Kelly found for me, and I'm putting it to use. Myself and the customer had the usual back and forth to come up with the basic design and dimensions, and I also got the green light to just be creative. I trust you. Happy days. Oh, and also nothing too chunky. Well back, I work with pallets. They have to be chunky. It needs chunky, rustic charm, don't they? I'm going to have to get my woodwork on to try some new things and meet the client brief. How can I de-chunkify this build? Taperization. That's how. I have never cut a tapered leg on a table ever. And it is not actually that hard to do, so I discovered. I took one of my straightening jigs, screwed on some tapering angles and stops, then simply cut two sides of each leg, do the same thing 4 times, and hey presto, taperization complete. Now, if you recall from my last video, I said I'm going full business human. I'm going to get more smarter and get much better at running my side hustle like a business, building a backup plan. I'm tracking the time spent on the build, calculating the cost, and then I can come up with an hourly rate. Straight up, I had to buy a sheet of plywood. There goes $100. No matter, plenty left for my wallet. The table will have 2 semicircle ends, and I know from my design in my brain that I'll need to cut many a semicircle, so I had to whip up a new circle cutting jig, an adjustable one. Now, just like pallets, recycled skateboards need a lot of preparation to turn them into usable timber. In my brain, I know I need some stock for the edge of the table and a heap of stock for whatever the pattern is going to be, which I have not yet settled on. So while all this de-gripping, sanding, laminating, jointing, planing, sawing, re-sawing and re-planing is going on, I've been tuning into a couple of my favourite recycled skateboard YouTube craftsmen, which is none other than Andrew Zito
and Ben from Wobie Design. I spotted this particular design by Ben and I loved how the skateboard looked like they had been woven. And then I was staring at this chair and I realised it is woven. Or is it just a herringbone? Nope, it is woven. I am going to weave these skateboards. I now truly understand the wool. You got to celebrate as you go. Woo! A while back I sold my bandsaw and I have no regrets. However, I do have to work within the limits of my machines. Height of the table saw blade is the main limitation. You also have a lot more waste with table saw blades as opposed to a bandsaw blade, which when the resource is finite, that can be an issue. No regrets. This is my pony press. I used to have a big steel hydraulic press, but it took up valuable space and I did not use it very often. These sash clamps with their 7,000 pounds of clamping pressure do an unreal job and I achieve as good results. In fact, they are so tough, something inside of you will probably go pop before they do. Bottle of Tight Bond, there goes another 70 bucks. She'll be right. In Ben's latest video, he makes a circular table and cuts the edge capping with the CNC. I don't have a CNC, so I've come up with another way, a way I lost many hours of sleep over. Okay, let me bring in for a live update. So I've made this segmented ring. This is gonna prove the concept before I use the skateboards and make a meal of it. So I need to cut the corresponding curve of the circle, which using my center hole and then just dragging the route a bit to the inner edge cut, then in theory, this arc should fit perfectly onto that semicircle. Can you hear my brain thinking? Neither can I. Let's give it a bash. Then, when I watch Ben's video, right at the end, he explains how he could have just made a segmented circle and cut it with a router. So I reached out to him to let him know that I am not knocking off his good ideas. I have the bags under my eyes to prove it. I am, however, plagiarizing a few woos in this video. For no other reason than it always makes me smile when I see him punch out a few celebration woos or two. Okay, so I have now got two semicircles, making shit up as you go, although I have lost a lot of sleep over this. Not gonna lie, a little bit nervous. I left myself a note last night to cut the outside first. If I cut the inside, there's nothing for this thing to actually sit on top of. I'm all chopped up in the middle. A couple of little glue blocks that'll let the clamps stay out of the way so my jig has all the space it needs. Gonna stop rambling, just gonna have a crack. I'm just gonna double check. Safe to say, I was very happy that these semicircles are cut perfectly. There was no backup stock. In fact, the backup plan would have had to have been solid timber, but the customer "I trust you" clause was at the forefront of my mind. Enough rambling. I am very happy with this. I have the 80 hardware sections of skateboards, which again needs a fair bit of persuasion to get them laminated together, which has worked a treat and will give me more rainbow stock that I can use for the edge capping later. Again, I have to work within the limits of the table saw to get these squared up. The jointer and the thickness of planer would blow them up. Oh, check out those offcuts. I think I can use those as well a bit later on. License to go nuts. I mean, be creative. It is time to get my stock squared up and dimensioned to the exact size in which length equals 2 times the width. Maths. A rectangle. I need lots of rectangles that fit together and are the perfect size, no matter which way you put them. You'll see soon. Trust me. This is my thin strip jig, a nice, safe way to cut very thin pieces and have them all the exact same width. It is slow going, but well worth the effort. Let me start to weave these broken skateboards. Now I understand that this may look like a herringbone, but stick with me. I have got 5 different color arrangements of skateboard, and as long as I stick to the pattern, you'll start to see the weave. I did a fair bit of double checking to make sure the pattern worked and you could get a continuous run of under and over from the different color variants. Simple, but pretty bloody effective. The beauty of lamination or veneering on top of plywood is, firstly, it is very stable, no stressing about timber movement. Secondly, you can make a little bit of stock go a very long way. Veneering is a beautiful thing. And if you can't get hold of broken skateboards, you can use pallets. And if you're going to ask me where to get broken skateboards, there is a video down below by Ben. Let's take a little break from the skateboards and get going on the frame. I've got my legs sorted from the Merbau pallet. Now I'm cleaning up this reclaimed decking for the underside framework. I'm laminating 2 boards together for strength and chunkiness. No one will know. And I also want to add a little accent with these offcuts, plus a roundover, which looks pretty groovy and less chunky. It is time to start to bring all this action together with my favourite type of woodworking, tight bond and clamps. Great things can happen when you glue wood together. Bust out the belt sander and a roundover on the edges. Happy days. The legs will need to be detachable so the table can be transported. So I need to get a little more woodworky, and I've rigged up this little jig to take off a little material across the 45 of the leg. I'll use the same jig later on to drill the holes, which will then let me thread in the bolts as a means of attachment and detachment. These little 45-degree corner brackets provide the opposing force for the leg to be pulled in nice and square. With all the pieces now made, I can start to assemble. I went and purchased a larger roundover bit. The little one was not quite right. We won't take that out of profits. Now, I did promise I'll share my money-making extravaganza and lessons learnt in my latest video. The obvious lesson for me is, do you know that part of your body that looks like a rusty bullet hole? Don't pluck a figure out of there. When quoting, take a bit of time and try and work it out. Anyway, as you know, I'll be paid $1,000 for this piece. I have spent about $200 on plywood, tight bond, finish and hardware, and I have spent about 20 hours making this project. So on the net, that's about $40 an hour, and I still have to pay the taxman. The question is, did I say yes to the right thing? And did I get smarter at being a business human? Yes. Yes, I did. I am very happy with the side hustle profit level. I would not want to run a full-time business with that level of profit. What this project did do for me is establish what 20 hours of pretty full-on work looked like, and that'll be a great reference point for me in the future when I start to get a little more serious about quoting. I have also still got heaps of potential revenue sources from the leftover skateboard offcuts, noses and tails, and these little tiles. They will make a couple of magic mallet handles. Said yes to the right things. I also have 2 large offcuts of ply and almost half a bottle of glue, which means I'm ready to go to make something similar if I want. With that considered, it actually bumps my profit back up to about 900 kangaroo. Finally, did I beat Morley Kurt and Jesper Makes? I don't know. Maybe. I guess if you watch this video over and over or share it with as many friends as possible, then maybe I will. Or maybe I'll come a little bit closer. Okay? Catch you later. Alrighty, this final video means so much to me in many ways. So watch along, grab the tissues, and then you can head out to the shed and you can blame the sawdust like most other people did when they originally saw the video in the comments below. G'day, my name is Dainsy and I'm preparing a whole heap of timber. I'm continuing on with the journey of discovery as I prepare my future self with a set of skills I call full business human. To recap, my current plan is to use everything I have right here, right now to make things and sell things. Genius. My last 2 projects were quite time intensive and I chose those to get a better idea of how long I spend on a particular project. One was a commission, beauty, I knew I was getting paid. The second was a project I plucked from my brain with the hope of selling it to raise the funds for Operation Table Saw Upgrade. I am still hopeful. For these projects, I'm going to revert back to what I know should work. Projects that normally sell pretty easy, lower price point and far less work, which is a hallway table. How it all started. Made from pallet wood and reclaimed timber. And I'm also going to use a technique that lets you stretch your nice pallet wood further and also create some sought after rustic charm. If you are wondering how this big half of a log is going to fit into the story, well, let me tell you. This video has a little treat. 2 projects on the go at the same time, both made quickly to sell, we hope. Did he just say we? I hear you say, through the internet. So I have my son Harley with me on this video. I am teaching him woodwork as one of his homeschool subjects. We are deviating from the curriculum because we want to make something cool, which includes this big log. The other bonus is we are double dipping the system. Another of Harley's subjects requires a mini business plan to be produced. So while I'm going full business human, he is going full mini business human. Now, just like back at high school, the timber was always prepared, squared up and ready to go because time is of the essence, which is the same here in the shed. The idea is also to focus on getting comfortable with the machinery, attempt the cool stuff and leave the boring hard yakka to Dad. I want him to come back. And plus, machining up the timber, well, that is my special time, if you know what I'm saying. Alrighty, while I'm making the bricklaying hallway table, Harley will be cracking on with his bench, porch bench, a place to get your boots on and off, if you will. We are going with a fairly simple design, big log on top, square legs,
down below. It'll have bridle joints on all the legs. However, we are not busting out the tenon saw or the chisel on these. We're going to create our bridle joints by laminating our reclaimed decking together. With the timber all planed to the same thickness, you merely have to cut 2 different lengths and use your opposing sides as spaces. As long as you glue it up carefully, it should all go to plan. Right, back to the hallway table. And what I like to call bricklaying the pallet wood. There is many ways to get this done. Your tools and machinery will soon dictate that to you in your shed. The secret though is making sure all your bricks are dimensioned to the exact same size and they are nice and square. I used to make these bricks way back. When I did not have a thickness planer or a jointer, I would flatten all my slabs by hand with a router. Then I would slice up the bricks on the table saw, remembering that there is nothing a belt sander can't fix. Hopefully you're enjoying this cheesy 80s music montage. And you are getting pumped up like you would watching the Karate Kid wanting to have a go for yourself. So you can either create yourself these big box joints and glue the corners or the waterfall up as step 1, or create your top and your sides separately, clean them up, bash them together with a nail. Okay, quick update. This is basically what the corner pieces would look like as you laminate the big box or the finger joints together. What I would do is get a nice, perfect square corner to start with, and I would set myself up to start some sort of stagger. None of these pieces are ever the same, it does not matter. I will then stick it on a flat surface, make sure this is right angles to the bench, work my way along for the short side, clean that up with the belt sander, etc. I'll then flip it over and make my way along the entire bench, bricklaying as I go. And because I don't actually have enough pallet wood to do the side and the top, and I also want to try something new, I also need a little bit of contrast and some serious check squaring to make sure this works first attempt. I have this reclaimed hardwood of varying species, mostly Hardius Facarius. Again, the timber needs to be milled up to the exactamundo dimensions of the pallet wood bricks. I need to whip up a little cross-cut sled so I can cut the chamfers on the tops of the fingers. I did try the router, however, it was a bit of a shit fight. This way looks Mickey Mouse. So again, I use spacers to help set my box joint and a whole heap more check squaring and double check squaring. If this glue up is just millimeters out of whack, it is going to stand out like you know what on a small yellow bird. I'm doing my young fella a solid and cleaning up all his pieces with the machines. His first experiences with a hand plane should not be with my less than awesome sharp plane blades. Once I learn to sharpen properly, then we will move on to hand tools. Going to use my vise in anger. I'll admit it's not the fastest vise in the world. My chisels are acceptably sharp to have a bit of a go at clearing out the waste from the table saw assisted half lap joints. There was one bridle joint that did slip while gluing up. We could have made a whole new section, however the learning experience of how to cover up your dodgies was far too vague. That is what I tell myself. Anyway. What do you got to say?
Check square.
Right, song change, and we are back to the bricklaying. Lay down some baking paper underneath and then simply work your way along. Test out what looks nice before you commit to the tight bond. The main reason I don't cut my bricks the same size, a la real bricks, is to limit the waste of the pallet slabs. I merely cut off the bricks wherever that length of pallet stops looking good, as in where all the ends of the pallets meet. The width of my top and sides would actually be fine to go through the planer. However, that would then make a meal of my nice chamfered fingers. So a quick clean up with the belt sander was all that was required, again, because the bricks were all dimensioned nice and perfect. Harley is on the job trenching out the log. The legs will sit nicely in these recesses after some delicate chisel work with the 50mm Narex weapon. All the pieces are coming together now, and this bench is going to look pretty rad. What is even cooler, the big log was given to us by Harley's Poppy. So I'm pretty stoked with how it is working out. Pop will be proud as a proud thing. The other end of the hallway table is going to have tapered legs, very contrasting in comparison to the chunky side. Tapered legs with a round over looks pretty slick and is well worth all the extra steps until you realise you've made two identical legs, which does not work when they are laminated boards. The orientation was all wrong. I needed to make two opposite legs, so I had to do all the steps again, fair dinkum. At least I have a spare now to experiment on with the open tenons I have got going. The bonus of laminating three boards together is when it is time to chisel out the waste to accept the same size board, you can simply chisel down to the colour change, mortises for dummies, I suppose. Starting to bring the frame together now, the dowels were not meant to be visible. They were originally meant to be on the inside, however I got one step ahead of myself. They do need to be there as these joints need some extra support as there is no lateral support because I am making a secret drawer. I figure somewhere to hide your car keys will be a popular feature in my part of the world right now. The drawer carcass will also provide a little structure, so I'm making sure it is nice and snug so I can glue it into position because it is a secret. Alright, just gotta check square. Oh shit. Legs are all squared up, the clamps were in fact pulling them all wonky donkey because of the secret drawer or lack of a lateral apron, which I think that's what it's called. I have these sample tins of Whittle Wax Hard Wax Oil. In short, I love them already. I was well and truly overdue to try some new finishes that are not polyurethane. With the whole table finished, I decided to list the piece on Facebook Marketplace because I have had a lot of luck with this furniture category on that platform. It can be a little bit of a minefield of time wasters and a lot of people who don't value your time or work, they just want a bargain. Lucky for me, I found a nice buyer who does appreciate my stuff. I listed it for 500 kangaroo. The buyer stopped by for a look and offered $450. So now Harley's bench is done and I think it looks pretty special. We have had a lot of fun working through this project, learning new things, getting used to machines, and of course, spending quality time together. That has been pretty unreal. Again, we listed his bench on Facebook Marketplace for $350. No real interest initially, so I threw it up on my website and sold. Happy days. I tell Harley making stuff is cool, selling your stuff and making a few coins is even cooler. Here's where the story gets a little bit different. I check out the shipping details and I immediately freak out when I see the address is overseas somewhere. I did not tick local pickup only. I have no idea where this person lives and I cannot even pronounce their name. It seems a bit odd. I then see a little note attached to the order. And to paraphrase, this person has been following along on Instagram and loves seeing a dad and his son making things. It reminded him of his dad and now himself with his own daughter. He also loved that the big log was from Harley's poppy. So he bought the bench. Why? Simply because he wanted to see Harley give that bench back to his poppy and keep it in the family. I was absolutely blown away, to say the least. Now, this person did a pretty good job at remaining anonymous with their very fake name and dodgy address. However, they did make a little mistake by paying with PayPal. So I got a separate receipt that had their full, real name. This was such a beautiful gesture, and I know that random internet person wants to remain anonymous. So I'm not going to name them. However, if you'd like to check out this video next, catch you later. Right, final shout out to my blood brother, Jesper Makes. The Pallet Viking and all-round good human. He emulates my absolute favourite saying of be excellent to each other. And he has been far more than that to me. Jesper's actually responsible for the pivotal moment that I made in my channel, which caused it to actually take off and have some decent success in the last 12 months. And for that, I am very grateful. He continues to help me out. We chat all the time, throw ideas at each other, and that's probably why you do see us pop up in each other's videos. It's very much a couple of dudes helping each other out. So hopefully I can keep improving, you keep enjoying, you keep watching. Thank you very much. There's not much else I can say. If you've sat through 2 hours and whatever minutes, you are an absolute legend, and I appreciate it. Okay, heaps more to come. I'm still not a full-time YouTuber, in case someone's going to ask that. I have to go to work. I don't get to put out as much content as I would like to, but I'm doing my best. Okay, all right, catch you later.